Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and today I'm very grateful and very humble to be joined by Scott Mcgee. I met Scott at Jets Bringa about 3-4 months ago. He's a CHEK practitioner, he's a PT, he's a holistic lifestyle coach, he's a lot more than that. Scott, welcome to our show today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Scott is the first speaker for my upcoming program, which you can find in the show notes. The Breaking Free 7-week program for 19 to 35-year-olds. Scott's doing week 2, exercise and nutrition. I think the title's a lot more professionally sounding than that, but that's what Scott's going to cover. He is awesome. I'm looking forward to this today, and I'm looking forward to our chat and everything else that's going to come. So Scott, welcome. Share your story, who you are, what you do, and how you got to the Sunshine Coast all the way from England.
Whoa.
Scott, welcome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. We're going to start back then. Originally moved over from England when I was 10, and we went to the Gold Coast up in Queensland, and finished my schooling up here, and I was very academic and pushed into that sort of way. But I had a lot of interest in sport as well and music, so I guess I've always been quite holistic, I guess, in that way. I could never just focus on one thing. I always wanted to do maths, science, sport, music. I just never like to just exclude anything. So going forward then, like, my parents pushed more the academics. I finished pretty well at school, and then I kind of came to this conundrum where I didn't know what to do. Like, I just focused so hard on school that I was like, all right, what am I actually going to do with myself now? My parents had an idea of going into more medicine or lawyer, that sort of thing, and it was an opportunity for me to think, okay, what do I actually want to do? And that took a while. And when you're 17, as you probably know, like, you're also focusing on a little bit of a different lifestyle, and maybe not optimal lifestyle, but you're young, and it can be hard to really dial that focus in. And but eventually I settled on physiotherapy. So I started, and back then it was a 3-year bachelor degree with a master's in physiotherapy. So the bachelor degree was exercise science. And then, I began my exercise science journey, and I really enjoyed it. It really woke me up originally as to where my own health and my exercise was at that time, which was pretty poor. It was pretty, especially focusing on academics all the time. I wasn't very active. So I really got into running and joined the gym at 17 as well, and opened that door of the world of fitness, and I loved it. I just really enjoyed it. Made a lot of mistakes, and that's where then I started to have to learn about how to actually nourish myself, how to manage my sleep and my stress. Like, going deeper into that, I finished my exercise science degree, but I felt called not to pursue the physiotherapy from there. I did a bit of work experience, and I felt that what I was witnessing was a lot of sort of superficial things, like people not really getting results, a lot of physiotherapists warning me away, and I was only 19. I thought, oh, okay, I need to take a step back and take some time here. And it was tough. I was in a bit of a rut mentally, because I had this vision, and it suddenly sort of realized that wasn't actually the way I was going to go, and had that sort of breakdown, I guess, of my mental health. And I guess the breaking down of my mental health with gym, and the gym was my place in the end to really force an identity. I really wanted to be this strong, powerful person. I wanted to prove to the world that I was a person, and that such a high level of drive created a lot of anxiety and pain, and eventually kind of everything collapsed. I just couldn't sustain study, gym, and that's when Paul Chek kind of entered my life a little bit, and I watched a couple of his videos, and I think when I first watched him, I was like, oh man, this guy's a bit full on, took a step away, and eventually he just kept popping up, and I was like, I best listen to this guy, and eventually the words just sank in, and I had these sort of questions, and he answered them. He brought in concepts of organic food and how to really nourish myself. That time I was just doing protein powders and oats, and just buying cheap quality food just to try and eat lots of food. And it wasn't really getting me where I wanted to go. So yeah, started really reflecting on and making some changes, and it was a good age. I was 21, I think, then, and me and my partner just moved out, and I thought, you know what, like, let's actually do this properly, so I don't have to make changes. Like, that's moving out and buying my own food. I'm independent. Like, let's go to the farmers markets, let's buy organic whole foods. That way, you know, I see so many people like, oh, like it's so expensive because they're used to paying this amount. Whereas like I'm just used to paying this. This is fine. Like I don't, you know, and those people often want extra money for their beers and their gambling, and we could, that's another story. But if you just have your money for your health and your food, you often just you budgeted for it. You don't need to worry about it, and it's a staple. It's one of my values. It's not something I'm willing to give up. And yeah, I then began my study through the CHEK Institute after just continually being guided that way. Really, I even remember once I was like, you know what, I've got to not listen to this guy for a bit, just see, you know, because he kept popping up. I was like, no, I've got to listen to someone else, and he just eventually he came back again. I was like, I can't avoid this, and I decided to study through the CHEK Institute back in 2020. I think I started, and yeah, and then I then was training with a CHEK practitioner as well on the Gold Coast. His name's Taylor Sezel, and under the guy that was working for him as well, Jono. And yeah, it was the perfect opportunity for me to learn it academically, but then also like get the hands-on work with a practitioner, with an established business, like how to do it. And I think there's no better way of learning than that, than being the client and doing the work yourself. Like I still see even holistic practitioners and coaches that they don't do the work themselves. And I think it's so like awesome to meet people like you, Geordie, that are like a living example of your teachings. So then that way there's an authenticity there. There's so much inauthenticity out there right now in the social media world. So it's really awesome to do that. And that's what I wanted to do. I was like, you know what, I'm never going to tell someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So I'm going to do the things. I'm going to learn the exercises. I'm going to learn how to manage my body, my health. And when you get deeper into the CHEK courses, they then go into more psychological aspects and archetypes. And then it just has kind of rolled in. And yeah, I began my business on the Goldie. I was working for a chiropractor, so I was learning that as well. And I was kind of at that time thinking about going that direction. But I just realized I wanted to coach people, not just treat people. And so then I just started my business, and I went solo a month before I had my first baby. So hey, that was an interesting opportunity, but I just knew it was the right time. Again, that intuition was so strong that it was time to go solo. And I did that from 2020 to just before I moved up here. So what, 2023, yeah, when I come up here, and 2022 to 23, sorry, it was 1 year. And then establishing up here in the sunny coast, and it's just like booming. It's really such a great place, and people are very open to the teachings, and I'm getting good results with people. So
yeah, well, I'm one of your clients. You're getting good results with me, so
yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome story, man. I don't know where to go from here to unpack some of that, but I'll never forget of when you first, well, before you came to the gym, they were looking for a PT, and there was only a couple of signs on the board. I remember doing some shoulder press or something, and Kelly was putting the new PT guy up, and Joy and I are looking and going, CHEK, CHEK Practitioner. We're like, interesting, we need to meet this guy. And then it just all unfolded beautifully, really, didn't it?
Yeah. It's my first opportunity of being in a commercial gym doing what I'm doing. Like on the Goldie, I was just in a very private space, advertising through Instagram primarily and word of mouth, and just getting private clients, which was good in one sense, but then at the same time you're very isolated. Like it's very challenging when you're just in an empty room trying to create work, I guess, and like up here, like there's so many people when you're just talking, and I essentially work primarily with pain and chronic health issues. The two things, mostly chronic fatigue. Chronic is a big one that I work with as well. So when you talk to most people, like, I've got chronic pain, I've got chronic fatigue. They often go hand in hand. Actually, you don't really get one without the other, because when you're chronically fatigued, essentially you're you're going to break down to some degree. Your body's going to break down somewhere, because when we're chronically fatigued, we're burning more resources than we're consuming or nourishing. So say, in the CHEK system, we learn the 6 foundation principles. We got eating, breathing, sleeping, hydration, movement, and eating, breathing, thinking, movement, hydration, and let's say I can't remember the last one.
Relaxation, maybe.
But essentially, there's 3 yin ones.
Yep.
Breathing, hydration, and nutrition. And most people are not paying attention to that. They're more paying attention to the movement. The movement and even thinking is a very yang expression. When we're thinking, we're using our resources. The brain can use 20% of the blood glucose at one time when it's busy. So if people are just focusing on that and not the things that's going to restore them, they then get chronically fatigued, and that energy has to come from somewhere. Like, so your body can even break itself down just to like recover your levels. So that's why, chronically fatigued people often have pain. There's a number of reasons why as well. It could be lower back pain is associated with the lower chakras. So if they're stressed financially or stressed because they're not fitting in their tribe, then they get that lower back pain as well. But it's a really interesting journey when you get a new person in front of you, as you know, and you're like, cool, what am I working with here? And it can really bring out that creative juices in you, because there's so many ways to work. And I know you have your cool way, and I'm looking forward to talking about how you work as well, because you've got the physical things we need to do, the movement, the hydration, the nutrition. I feel like once you build the solid foundations, you can then start to go a little bit deeper into their mental aspects and what's going on in their mindset. I think there's a big benefit in just getting the physical stuff right first. Then people can think a little bit clearer, have a bit more energy to do that deeper work. Because if you go straight away when they're half asleep or chronically anxious, then it's gonna be a bit of a mixed battle, because you're going to struggle kind of getting into those depths.
Yeah, and a lot of people struggle. I hear it all the time. Like, I can't meditate. It's interesting that if you take care of the other things, and you can your body will just work. Like, you'll just be able to do it. I know for me, once I actually sat still and was able to relax, like, I had my whole world changed, really. And then meditation is just part of my practice now. It's just a given.
Yeah.
Some days I'll do it longer than others. It's just something that's just a way of life.
Yeah, and it's just one of those key foundations. Another way of looking through the CHEK system is the 4 doctors, and he talks about that. And meditation is Dr. Quiet, and he says that Dr. Quiet is the chief physician, because it's without it, the other 3 are going to suffer. Dr. Movement, even Dr. Diet, and Dr. Happiness. Because if you're chronically fatigued, you're often not very happy. You probably won't have the energy to go to the gym and exercise. And Dr. Movement can be many ways of exercising. Could be surfing, could be walking, can be anything that's moving and pumping your body. Doesn't have to be lifting weights. And then and even Dr. Diet can suffer, because most people say, I'm too tired to cook. So then they go for their microwave meals, and then suddenly it's a spiral downwards because they're having the microwave meals. That's lacking nutrition. When you actually have lacking energy, your body's using more of its resources because it's not giving you energy. So you still have to digest it and eliminate it. So you're actually draining more energy just for that food, and then suddenly you're not sleeping well because you're not nourished, and it can be able to spiral downwards. But on the counter side, when we make a bit more effort, especially with something like diet, something we can get straight onto, you then have more nourishment, then your sleep gets better, then you're more happy, then you're able to think clearer, and then you move a bit more, and you can create a bit more a lifestyle that's it's not complex, but it's just doing those foundations, as you said: meditation, sleep, movement, food, and then go from there and really figure out what your dream is and why you're actually on the planet. That's
but it's getting to that point of your body works like a car. I had a great mentors say to me, give me this analogy. If your body is a Ferrari, then are you going to put shit fuel in it?
Yeah.
Like do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are you going to put
like,
shit fuel in it, or are you
you've
going to
got,
put the
like,
premium fuel in
exactly.
it?
You've got your premium or your E10.
Exactly.
And actually, another thing, like Paul said, go like just observe the drive through McDonald's and see what sort of cars are driving through. And you'll actually see a lot of Mercedes, BMWs going through there. And it's just mind blowing that people will put all their money into cars and houses, and then they just feed themselves like they're a farm animal that they don't care about. Like,
100%.
it's completely backwards in my way. And I remember years ago saying, I kind of woke up and I realized how asleep people are just working their 9 to 5s, sad, depressed. I was like, I would rather do what I'm passionate about and live in a caravan than do what makes me sad and have $1 million, because it doesn't bring happiness.
100%.
But now I'm at a place where I'm like, cool, I'm actually open to earning good money through my passion.
Yep.
And I think that's the next step. But doing what you're passionate about and what makes you happy is the best thing you can do.
It's like a perception. It's a perception switch. You go from the 9 to 5, literally sucking the life force out of you, to then being like, is there something better? And then asking yourself those questions. What am I passionate about? What can I do? And then you're able to meditate, drink more water, clean water too. We'll put a documentary in the show notes about fluoride. We'll put a documentary in the show notes about microwave food, which you touched on. We'll circle back to that. It's just interesting that when your body actually starts to work, you start to feel things. Your body, which we can talk about, will tell you what food it wants. It will tell you what it needs to function at optimal health. And that is our innate human design.
Yeah.
We're not born to be eating McDonald's.
No.
We're not born to be not moving. We're born to move. Like you go back to the tribal days, we're all moving. We're moving tribes, we're moving caves, we're doing all these things. This society, this modern society, has stopped human movement. It has programmed us to be a certain way through the schooling system and other things.
Yeah.
How did you break free from that mindset of one thing for the rest of your life, which you were 21, I think you said you were when you had that moment. And I'd love to circle back and go deeper in that. What was that moment like? And did you have a rock bottom?
Good. Yeah. So, yeah, I really did. I had a real rock bottom with my health, and I don't like to say mental health, physical health. It's all health. And it was all linked. So, yeah, when I was 20, maybe even it started when I was 19, started experiencing just anxiety. And I was like, I've never really had this chronic feeling for no reason. I felt at that time there wasn't like I was nervous about doing something. I was just anxious, and yeah, and that's where that time when I was training hard and I was studying to try and be a person that I wanted to be perceived as a someone in society. Like I wanted to, maybe make my parents proud, and it wasn't about me and my soul. It was about my ego and saying that I had to be this physiotherapist, had to be real strong and to prove who that I was as someone. But because when I was young, I was quite little and maybe I wanted to be the opposite, but it wasn't coming from my heart. It was coming from my mind saying I wasn't good enough. It was actually, that's what it was deeply saying, though, I'm not good enough. So I started forcing things, and I still see this a lot at the gym.
Yes.
It's like you can go into the gym with do two different intentions and have a completely different experience.
100%.
And at that time, it was like, I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. That guy's bigger than me. That guy's stronger than me. How am I going to be as strong as that guy? I need to train more. I need to eat more. I need to force it. And then it came to I need to sleep is good for your muscle building. I was like, all right, cool. Then I tried force sleeping, which was obviously counterintuitive, and I suddenly wasn't sleeping, and then I was stressed about it, and then my sleep just went downhill, and I was like, I can't sleep. What am I going to do? I started having 3-4 hour nights regularly, and I was really struggling. I was still forcing it. I was seeing a trainer who was loading the bar up, almost vomiting after sessions, and then I was like, man, this is not sustainable. And I remember randomly we had a trip to Japan booked, and we obviously had a couple of weeks off. I was like, man, it was the best I've felt in ages, just having a break. We're still walking, we're walking heaps. But I just felt like my body actually felt so much better. And I think that woke me up to that style of training wasn't sustainable for me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't repairing myself at that time. I wasn't eating good food either, wasn't sleeping. So, and I wasn't drinking good quality water. I was just drinking tap water. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a rock bottom. Mentally, physically, as I said, Paul came in my life, and actually randomly as well, Taylor, she had a roommate, and her parents owned a health food shop up in Toronto actually. And then I would meet her parents. Yeah, these two that own the shop, and they were, yeah, the nicest people. And he had a story too, where he had glyphosate poisoning from being a conventional farmer. It was a big mystery back in like the 80s. No one knew what it was. Homeopath found it, and then he started eating organically, became an organic farmer. So he was super passionate about the organics, and he was like talking to me about soil science and minerals in the soil compared to dead soil, and how much more nutrition's in the food. And I was like, oh, cool. So I slowly started making those changes while I was still just living with my dad and my mum. And again, you know, they look at you like, what are you doing spending this money? But roundabout way, yes, I sorted out my nutrition, and that was the same time when I realized not to be a physio. I was a bit lost. I didn't know what to do with myself. I studied mathematics for a year because I'm actually really good at maths. I just thought I'll just do that and see where that goes. I did really well. I enjoyed it, but I just couldn't see a career from it. I couldn't see where to go from there. And at that time too, Paul checked, that was that year where he kept coming in. I was just watching his YouTube channel, and I was like, cool. She started doing yoga, and then I ended up doing qigong, because qigong is all about energy cultivation. That's what that means, through movement. I was like, cool, movement as medicine. Like, let's go the other way from the weightlifting. Let's bring movement as medicine, and that really created a lot more calm and a lot more energy in me with the food, the change in my water, and then I think I was still open. I was just, you know what, I'm not going to rush this decision of where my life's going, because it always used to be this, you have to make a decision, and I realized, actually, no, I don't. I don't actually need to make a decision right now. I can just focus on my health, and just when the vision comes, it will come. And as I said, then that's when I think the CHEK Institute. Actually, no, I bought my first CHEK. I bought his book, read that. And then I bought You Are What You Eat audio series, which we've spoken about once. It's a great series, very in depth. So essentially, Paul, the original How to Eat, Move, Me, Healthy was like this thick. It was this huge book. And of course, these publishers said, look, the average person only reads like this much, condense it. He's like, all right, how am I going to do that? So he condensed it as much as he could, and then he put the rest into like an audio series. So he didn't want to lose that information, because he felt it was all important. In that series, he goes into GMOs, he goes into radiation of food, he goes into, of course, organics, and even grains and sugar, and a lot more in depth into the specifics. Really good series. But yeah, bought that, and then I think they offered me. They said, "Let's, we have this academy, and essentially through the academy, you get the educational stuff every month, and then you build into a like a level 1 practitioner. So, and then you can do that for as many years as you want. I did the full year, became level 1 practitioner, and that's just where I knew. I was like, as I said, I became a client of a CHEK practitioner, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And yeah, it just felt so in touch with my heart. I was like, I was just so excited to share it. And anyone that knows the CHEK teachings knows how far above the curve he is beyond what I learned at exercise science. I did 3 years at a university, and like my first CHEK course in my first month was called scientific back training. And he goes through all this research, but basic evolutionary science, like infant development of why we're experiencing lower back pain, how that's linked with our nutrition as well. And I was just like, man, this is so far beyond what I've learned at a university. I couldn't believe it. And of course, where a university is funded, they're funded by the Western medical system, and so there's obviously the reason why you're not taught all this stuff at uni. But at the same time, uni gave me that really good understanding of anatomy, physiology, how, basic human things. So then I could actually really use that in what I do now, and yeah, it had its place. I'm not going to say it didn't. I think it did have its place, and I'm really grateful that I took the time to not rush into physiotherapy, because I was going to do it. And it's funny, actually, when I did about 3 days of work experience just for free. I openly emailed different physios and said, I'd like to just come in and observe for the day. And I did that. And my intuition was like, no, but my ego was forcing it. It was like, no, this is all right. I'll do this. Because I didn't want the reality of having to have this vision kind of gone. And my twin sister was actually doing the same thing. We both did exercise science, and she was also going to do physio. And then she was much more honest. She's like, Scott, that was shit. I don't want to do that. And I was like, oh, same, me neither. and I just like had this sigh of relief, and I actually cried. I was like, oh, I got really upset because I felt upset that what I thought was going to be my future wasn't, because I just felt lost then. I was like, what do I do with myself? And but that's okay. I needed that step back. I realized I was like, I'm so young, I'm 19. I have no understanding of how the world works and how humanity works. So I guess that's really what the holistic system is about too. It's understanding what being a human is about, what being human on this planet is about, and understanding our relationship to it, because we're all interrelated. I think we have this thought that we're separate from nature, but we're not.
We're connected to nature.
So we are nature.
Yeah.
we are nature, because what we do to the soil and to the environment is going to affect us. Air pollution, food pollution, water pollution. Like, I saw someone today say, if you're drinking tap water, you are the filter. So, and that's so true. Like, you are. So that's, I guess, in a long way of saying, that's how I realized I didn't want to do that 9 to 5. It's not about that. It was just about, that wasn't my vision, and I realized what my vision was, and it was about coaching people through this system. And at the moment, I'm really grateful just to find the community and help the people here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what that next vision, is, because I do believe that as we evolve, there's always a new sort of vision that comes along for our own growth. But at the moment, I'm just working with clients.
I love it. So much to unpack there too. I was just going to ask you about, I guess you had that real trust and that belief that something better was coming during that time where you were stuck and lost.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You just had that, like, we'll talk about that trust and that belief in that something is going to come from taking a backward step, I guess you could say. So how was that? Like, you got to have a deep level of trust and belief in that something's going to come from this messy situation.
Yeah, well, I was so determined, because I was actually seeing a psychologist, and then he was cool. He was actually I felt like he was actually really good. But my mum was actually pushing me to take medication, because I understand that she's a mum. And I remember, like, actually I was one bit where I'd like maybe 3 nights without sleep, maybe like a couple of hours sleep. And by the 3rd day, I was, in a bad place. And she's like, you need to take medication, because I had it prescribed, and I was like, I'm not taking it, not taking it. Eventually she gave in. I did have a little bit. And to be fair, like, it helped. But then I was like, I can't be on this forever though. And that's when I just had this drive, and this real internal drive that I want to find the root cause of why I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired me now, because I feel like so many conventional practitioners aren't like asking enough whys. They're just like, even with pain, they're like, cool, you got this shoulder issue, like, let's just work on the shoulder. And they're not asking why. Why has this person got a shoulder issue? Have they got a shoulder issue because their core's not working properly, their posture's out? Why is their posture out? Are they doing something faulty at home or at work? Like, we need to, that's what coaching is about, eh? It's asking those whys and problem solving, which I find really nourishing. But at that time, I had that deep why within myself. So, and I think the answers just kept coming. when these, that family who ran the organic store were there, and even in myself, I was like, that makes sense. He was just talking about magnesium. He was very passionate about magnesium. He's like, it's the one mineral that's probably most depleted in our soil.
It is.
And yet it's the most, probably one of the most important in the body for heart function, for all of your hormonal systems. So I actually started there. I was like, cool, I'm just going to start with buying like a good magnesium salt. And I was doing magnesium salt baths. And, it was something very small to start with, but it just got the ball rolling. And then I think I remember buying a few fruits and veggies because he sold me on the organics. So he's like, yeah, the soil is more nutrient dense, so that food is going to actually absorb more nutrition. And now I've seen science showing that, I think even in the 90s, one head of lettuce, they said it takes 20 heads of lettuce to get the nourishment of one head of lettuce back in the 60s or the 70s. It was something like that.
Yeah.
So essentially, our soil is becoming so depleted, we have to eat so much more food to get the same nourishment, which is not sustainable. And that's why we see a lot of people now who are overfed but undernourished. They're eating a lot of food. They're putting a lot of things in their stomach. They're not actually getting any nutrition from it. And that's actually like a double whammy in a bad way, because they're eating what we call displacement food. So as I said earlier, like your body's having to deal with this stuff that they can't digest. It's just using its own vitamins and nutrition now just to try and move it along. And then you get inflammation, and then your gut gets inflamed and so forth. But the nutrition really stuck with me, and that made the biggest difference. And it took a while for me to really dial it into a point where it's at today, to really go from a typical Western sort of life to a more like what Paul lives as like a primal pattern diet, or something that's more in line with how we're meant to eat and how we ate for maybe 10,000 to 100,000 years. And yeah, it's made the biggest difference to my mental state. I'm a lot more grounded now because, and I give the analogy to people, like if you're undernourished, to a degree, it's kind of like you're in nature and you haven't had a kill for a few days or a week. Your body will start to get more eager to go out and get more food because it needs it for its own survival, right? So, and when we're eating food but we're not nourishing ourselves, we're still undernourished. So our body will start to get more stressed. And you see these people like I was back then, just really stressed for no particular reason. And I believe it's because deep down our body's like, I'm not eating enough nutrient dense foods, and I need that. And that's when I started doing that, it just made such a difference. My sleep got 10 times better, and when your sleep gets better, then your mental health gets better. And I back then, as I said, I was doing qigong. I just decided, I'm not at a place now to train at the gym. And then it was kind of perfect because I started from the ground up again with the CHEK teaching, with my CHEK practitioner down there. And then I did a mentorship with Taylor Sezel. I did 6 months studying with him and seeing how he works with clients, what he looks for. He's been working with clients for about 12 years. He works with like Mick Fanning, Lana Blanchard, Ali Day, and it was just amazing. And beyond even the exercise and the nutrition, I found from him was his spiritual health was so high, because he's done a lot of work. You can tell on himself. He's so still, confident, had very high self-esteem. He didn't take any BS from you as well. Like, I love that in a coach. He would be honest with me, and he would make me be honest with myself. Like, he wouldn't just pander to me. If I came in complaining about something, he'd be like, cool, have you done the work? No. All right, cool. That's your answer, like to some degree. It's, we can whinge, complain, but often it's like, we know deep within why we're not achieving the results. We're not, that we want. And his state of beingness, his essence, I think was actually what I really got from him. He was just so relaxed. He was never in a rushed state. He would yeah, he was just always so calm and collected, and that just kind of shone out, I think, to his clients. And we need that right now. Like everyone's just so go, 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 stressed, eating on the go.
Yep.
And he's just in no rush. He's opened up a bathhouse down in Coolangatta. And he actually told me the story about that. It was actually originally lined up for like 2019, and it didn't open till last year, 2023. And he said it was a little bit frustrating at times, but he had to go with the flow of it. He had issues with the licensing and council approval. But when he actually listened to the situation, it avoided the whole COVID area where he probably would have sunk the business anyway. So he said he opened now. This was for a reason, because when you listen and tune in to what the universe is actually telling you, it can hurt our ego, because our ego wants everything now. It wants to be rich now. It wants to be healthy now. It wants to have everything now. And but
There's a journey to get there, Scott.
yes, and he taught me that as well. He really showed me my perfectionism. That was causing a lot of pain and suffering, and that's why I was putting so much pressure on myself too. And when you let go of the perfectionism a lot, it gives you this level of ease.
Where did that come from?
That would have been my upbringing, I'd say. My upbringing was actually about being perfect and being, everything had to be so good. And it worked to a degree while I was at school, because I was good at school. So I felt like it worked in getting good results there, but it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
It's because when you're aiming for perfection, you're aiming for a reality that doesn't exist. You're comparing yourself to others.
Which sounds to me, sorry to interrupt you, but it sounded like a lot what you were doing when you first went to the gym was comparing yourself to the big guy in the corner that's lifting, benching 120. Like, I did that when I first went to the gym too. I was going there. It's interesting how you also said too that you have different intentions. And I know I had different intentions when I was 17 to then coming back in the start of last year and being like, well, I'm not chasing girls' attention, doing this for me and to build my strength physically and to be the best version of myself that I can be physically. And that's the perspective flip. How was that for you? Comparing yourself to the big guy, being the, no offense, but little guy, to now being you're probably the biggest little guy I've ever met.
Yeah, I think it was when I awoke to that. He actually said the flip was to go from the perfectionist to the experimentalist. And that changed the intention. I'm going to go into the gym and I'm going to experiment with this exercise. I'm going to experiment today. I feel good. I'm going to experiment with pushing myself, my potential out. Yeah, and it's also that vision. And it's a great, when I work with clients, first up, we get that vision. And he said to always be aware of if you're being kind of prodded by the stick, like you're running away from your fears, or if you're being guided towards a potential, because that's, again, two different intentions. Some people are like, oh, no, I want to be bigger, so I'm not little anymore, or I want to be bigger so I can finally have some confidence, versus like, I'm really excited to see, I want to be fit and healthy and strong I'm excited to see my potential at the gym. It's this very positive, relaxed, high potential, intention that it first is like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm running away from my fears of not being good enough. And, two people come to the gym, might do the same exercises, and we'll actually probably get two different results, because this person's focusing on their fears all the time though. So your reality will start mirroring to you your fears, right? Like it will eventually, you'll still keep saying in my head, I'm not good enough, I'm not big enough, I'm not strong enough. So you'll always feel like this little person who will then have anxiety, have health issues in the end, because the world wants you to realize the true essence of who you are, though, which is actually, you are strong, you are powerful. And this person over here, like, I am strong, I am powerful, and I'm excited to see how that's going to grow. And, that's that difference. In the physical world, it takes time to create things, but in the spiritual world, it's beyond space and time. We can be powerful, we can be strong, and we are powerful and strong in the timeless reality. I think that's where my spiritual journey began. Really, where where then I just wanted to know the truth of who I am, and I think realizing.
So what
yeah.
started you off on the path towards the essence of who you truly are at heart? So what started you off on the path of that? Because I know Paul Chek's goes in that direction as well, obviously, but was it Paul Chek again, or was it someone else? Was it a mixture of things? What was it that went, what is the essence of Scott Mcgee? Who is he at a soul level? What started that journey?
Yeah. So when I was going through my health issues, one of the biggest things I changed as well was starting meditation.
Yep.
I just downloaded the Headspace app. And back then there was only like 2 apps you could get.
Yep.
So, and it was good. I really found benefit. It was very simple. It was very like Tibetan meditation style, just focusing on the breath, or maybe doing like body scans generally. And it really was very simple. Started with 10 minutes a day, started up to 15, and it made the biggest difference to my health. When I couldn't sleep, I would just get up, I would meditate. And he was teaching as well this balance, especially with sleep, that we want to do things we can do to help our sleep, but also we can't control it. And that was such a teaching in life. Like sometimes there's things we can do, there's things that we can't do, and letting go of the things we can't do, and that trying to control everything essence of ourselves. And
one of my biggest lessons, Scott.
Yeah. I think that's where the spiritual teaching started. Like, a spiritual teaching is about learning the truth of life. I think it's about understanding the universal truths. And that is definitely one. It's a paradox sometimes that, in a way, the more that we try and control things, sometimes we push it away because it's our insecurities trying to control it. My insecurity is saying I can't sleep and I need to control this. I need sleep. And the reality is, like, actually deep down, I was still doing okay. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't a long-term thing, but the universe was saying, it was reflecting my insecurities and my thoughts to me. It was like, cool, you feel like you can't go without sleep. You're going to go without sleep and you're going to figure it out. And it took me a long time to realize I had to just back off the effort and trying to control. And that just, with consistent meditation practice, probably took me 3 or 4 years eventually, where that sleep issue really subsided. It would still kind of crop up for years, especially if I had something on the next day. Like that would make me anxious. And even when I first started taking on clients, I remember one of my first clients who paid me, and I do a 2-hour assessment at the beginning.
Yep.
I was still a bit fresh, so I remember the nerves, and I was maybe up a little bit during that night. And to a level, there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's normal. It means I care. It means that I care about people and the job I do. But over time, I've become a lot more compassionate of myself and forgiving and less hard on myself. I've backed that pressure off. And I just trust as well. Obviously, with reps, I've probably done like 100 assessments by now, and I'm a lot more confident with it.
Yeah.
So it's completely different. Yeah. So anyone out there that's got sleep issues, it's you got to do the things you can do. Set up the space, have a chamomile tea, bit of lavender. Having your blue blockers on. Doing the things you can control, but at the same time, don't obsess about the things you can't. I have the blue blockers on, but I remember on the weekend, once would go out and then my mind would stress. I'm like, oh no, I haven't got my blue blockers on, and is this going to affect my sleep? You can get in your mind too much about it.
Yes, you can.
And I realized, like, you know what? Like, it's not about excessive control. I'll be fine. And I've realized too, like, most of the time, these things are in our mind a lot more. When then, that thought pattern that I just went through, that's going to then increase my cortisol. That's going to increase my stress hormones. When your stress hormones go up, you counterintuitive to melatonin, which is then going to stop my sleeping. So then, hey, but hold, my fears are reflected to me, and I can't sleep. And then I affirm that. I'm like, oh, look, I can't sleep. And that's because I didn't have my blue blockers on. But deep down, it was because I was stressed about the situation. And I think that's what's helped me most now is, controlling things I can control, but not obsessing about it. That what the Taoists say, the middle way. And that's what spiritual teaching is about. I learned about the middle way. We need an equal amount of winter and summer, day and night through our whole lives. We can't ever have more than one than the other. And that sometimes is true with our life. Sometimes we have to have a dark patch in our life to then kind of get rid of what we didn't need to then grow the light again.
Correct.
And I guess for me, that dark patch in my life was what I had to go through. And I knew that at that time too. It was like I was like, I have to go through this because I was so clear what I was learning, getting out of it through my own health and holistic health. And I was like, I knew this is it's gonna create that new tree of light and happiness again. And Carl Jung says the tree can only blossom up to heaven as high or as low as the roots go into hell. So sometimes we have to go through hell to reach heaven.
100%.
And it's just something you can't avoid. But it's about being supported and guided through that hell that it makes the difference. I think if I wasn't guided by anyone, if those people didn't come in from the health food shop, or if Paul didn't turn up in my life, who knows where my path could have gone? Could have gone very south.
It's an interesting ponder. I often ponder that too. If the mentors I had didn't come into my life, where I'd be. But I guess it's something you don't want to sit in for too long, though, either.
No.
Of where would that have taken me? And it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's something you probably shouldn't ponder too much.
No, I believe deeply though that everything is perfect in its imperfection. Like, you know, that health issue was there for me to then have Paul come into my life and other people, many other people. There's not just been Paul, there's many people, you know, you guys, everyone's a teacher too. If when you're always the student, you know, they say the master is always the student. So that's sort of a Taoist thing. Like my Qigong teacher, I did weekly Tai Chi with him for 3 years. And the Tai Chi was amazing, but it wasn't about the Tai Chi. It was what I was learning through it. It was learning how to have self-discipline, how to turn up when I don't want to turn up, how to feel into my body, enjoy the bliss of that. But sometimes the pain, like holding these positions, sometimes was hard.
Well, the positions you put me in, Scott, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I realized through that, like, what's one of their biggest sayings is the master is always the student. 100%. And I'm always learning through my clients too, because you know every client has their own story and their own way. And yes, often the foundations can help that person, but it's amazing to see how in what way that happens. That person might need more help with their nutrition. This other person might just need more exercise. I've got one client who I can sense this is just her happy time. She sees me twice a week. It's just her playtime because she works all the time, doesn't have the best home life. So I'm like, cool, how can I just make this fun?
Yeah.
And we just have fun, really. We're still doing the exercises, but our intention is to have fun. And that was a big change in me too. It was, how can I have fun, taking that seriousness out of work and life to some degree? That's what the word enlightenment comes from, right? There's many ways to look at enlightenment, but how can I be lighter, have more joy? You know, that's, as we said, that intention. How can I go to the gym and be lighter? And she was even observing my client. She's like, man, no one in here is having fun. Everyone's so serious. And I'm like, yeah, and they are. Because they're so fixated on how their body looks because it has to look a certain way. They have to, you know, compare themselves to the Joneses.
Yeah.
And, that intention is so different.
That's the thing I've noticed when I've been in the gym with you is you are having fun. And then when I'm in the gym on my own at 5 a.m. with a whole new different set of people, everyone's being serious. And then I'm sort of, because I'm on my own, I mean, know anyone, I'm sort of just keeping in my lane, doing my thing. But it's interesting. Interesting perspective flip. Because I know when I was working out with my buddy last year, we had heaps of fun. Music was blaring, we were talking, we have deep chats too, but bit of crying, but it was like fun. I feel like if a gym was like that, wonder what sort of, well, it could be something special, like the energy in that in there. Like if we just had the perspective, hopefully Jets bring to share this, have the perspective flip of let's go to gym for fun rather than going in there to sabotage ourselves or going in there because we need to look a certain way, be a certain person. We're just going there to be ourselves. There you go. I said it.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And that's what, like that true essence thing, right? Like be ourself, not being the victim, not being the self-sabotage self that you often are, but being the true essence of who you are. Like the true essence of you and me is that we are powerful creator beings who are able to enjoy life and be healthy. Like,
but how does one get to that point? If someone's out there right now, Scott, listening, watching, how does one get to that point from where they are currently? Could be
I think
anywhere.
you firstly have to get clear that you want to go there. And
Yeah,
firstly, that's the step. You know, you can't force someone that doesn't want to. If people want to go to the gym and be serious, that is providing them with something right now.
Yep.
And if that's how they want to live for this whole lifetime, that's totally cool as well. But if you finally realize, you know what, like I'm not enjoying this process, I want to go to the gym with a different intention. You've got to set that intention as being different. Once you set that intention, then you have to kind of make a plan. You know, in any coaching, we have to see where we're at, see where we want to go, how are we going to bridge that gap, right? And then that's the journey. That's the journey. Yeah, it could be any number of ways. Like that person could feel inspired to reach out to you, me, Geordie,
yeah,
and just or anyone. And then to feel about what works, what doesn't work. It's no teacher is the right teacher. You have many teachers and you'll go, you know what, this teacher really nourished my playfulness. This teacher really actually made me turn up and get on with shit.
Yeah.
This teacher actually helped me cook. Like everyone is teaching someone something different because we all have our own strengths as well. You know, we can't be perfect at absolutely everything. Like my partner Taylor, she helps me with things I can't do. I'm terrible at cooking. She loves cooking and she loves buying the veggies and the food from the markets. She loves getting mixed with the food, like because the food is alive, and we got to remember that too. And she
Yeah.
loves getting connected with the food, and I can feel that when I eat the food.
Yes.
And it's so different to just slapping the food together
100%.
consciously and just, you know, food's overcooked, you're just eating it, watching the TV. It's so different.
It's the same as when you go to the supermarket and you're buying the food. As we've had this chat before, whereas you get the people that are serving you the food, that are unpacking the food, also growing the food. They could be stressed, they could be worried, they could be sad, they could be all these emotions. Those emotions, they're touching that food. So that's going into the food.
100%.
And then you get they hate their job in there. Everyone in there hates their job. So you're eating that energy, which is a negative energy. Then you go to a health food store, a farmer's market, everyone's bright, everyone's cheery, everyone's happy. They're all playing their music. They're all happy to be there. Been there since 2 o'clock in the morning, right? The Kleiner farmer's market. They're happy to be there. You're talking to them. That's the energy of the food. You're coming home. Me and my brother are cooking it, and you're eating that. You're right. You're eating that energy, that life force energy. It's a flip from Johnny hating his job to going to see Jeff, who's just loving being in the market, selling you the food that they've grown, that they've nourished and grown, right? It's such a difference in energy.
Yes. But yes. We're now talking on the level of energetics.
We are now, yeah.
Which is awesome. Because that's what the universe is at an essence, it's just energy.
But we are too.
And we are the universe, right?
Yeah.
There is no separation. The universe goes infinitely inwards to me and infinitely outwards out there. You actually watch those videos where it goes into your cell, it goes into it keeps going. And we just haven't got a microscope deep enough yet to keep going, but it doesn't end. Actually, they say at the end it's going to turn into nothing. We actually look like a load of nothing moving so quickly. It's just the energy is, you can't capture it. You know, it's hard to put into words, but most people look at food and look at themselves as material. There's a materialistic way of looking at food versus the energetics, right?
But that's all of life, not just food, though.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it often mirrors, of course, through their whole life. But let's use food as an example. Maybe they'll just count calories and they'll just say, you know what, like I can eat my microwave meal. It's got 500 calories. It's got this many calories of protein, fat, and carbohydrate. That's fine because they're just looking at the calories. And that's how I used to be when I was in my, gym phase years ago when I realized that wasn't working for me. Whereas then someone like Paul is saying, you actually don't count calories. Listen to the food because yes, it is energy. The sun comes down, provides us energy. The water comes in, it creates energy. Even the moon. Paul's got an awesome video on YouTube that he makes.
We'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah, in HLC1, and he actually talks about how then the moon talks with the microbiotics of the soil, and it's this whole life process. Like when you make your kombucha, there's this process. It's very similar. And when we actually conventionally farm, they're just using chemicals to kill the soil. They're like, if we just kill everything, then the pesticides won't eat the food. But then that's counterintuitive. You're like, let's just give people dead food, and there's
Yeah.
no life to it.
Mm.
And yes, it might have calories from the sugars and so forth, but it hasn't got the energy that the other food has. And as you said, the energy of the food, a nice little way to do it yourself is to actually go to the food, still your mind, and just place your hand just above the food.
I like that.
And feel the energy of the food, and you'd be surprised. Even within different stores, you're like, you know what, what's the food at this store like versus that? Because you might, you might even get a better vibration from a different store compared to one. And we can basically observe this too. I remember, yeah, just observe the if it's wilted or if it's looking a little bit sour. Because even some stores, sometimes they'll have the food sitting on a truck for a couple of weeks as it's shipped from Victoria. So where versus someone that's locally growing and it's just come off the plant and it's alive. It's just had that nourishment. Same with meat as well. Like really tune in to how your body feels after eating meat from a certain supplier, and then maybe try a different supplier, and you'll feel it. If you feel quite good and energized, oh, that works. Maybe this other person doesn't work. And that's that experimentalist sort of way of looking at things. Yes, it's a really awesome journey. And you can do that with everything. As you've got crystals here, you can feel the energy of the crystals, feel the energy of a person. Hey, it's a really awesome thing to do.
Because we're all energy.
Yes.
Everything's energy. Us two, this podcast, this computer that we're sitting in these chairs, like everything's energy. And it's a good way to look at, I guess, everything, isn't it?
Everything's energy, but we're in an energy depleting world, and most people are energy depleted. If you look at
wow, yeah, that's an interesting little not rabbit hole, interesting little place we'll go now is, well, if you're in that system of 9 to 5, you're doing the things that we've overcome, then you're in that system of energy depletion. But it's finding a way out, I guess, isn't it? To then being in that system of holistic, that you're just a creative being, creating something special to offer service to humanity.
100%. But yeah, look after your own energy first, and then you'll be surprised. You can't create from an empty cup.
Do you feel that people give too much away?
Give too much away.
As in, like, we have these type of people in our society that they are always doing too much for someone else, but not doing enough for themselves. I find there's a lot of general people out there that just give too much away, and you're right. Then they're pouring from that empty cup. So then years down the road, they're resenting.
That's a deep topic.
It is a deep topic. We went there anyway.
That's cool. Let's delve into that question.
Yeah.
Because yes, a lot of people do.
Because at a heart soul level, they are giving, like they're just naturally giving. But then I don't think that they're understanding that the energy behind that is you got to give to yourself first, nourish yourself, love yourself, do those things to then circle back and go, hey, now I'm of service to you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, let's go to that. So
yeah,
we'll start with why it's important to look after yourself first. And what that means. It's not about being narcissistic and not helping others at all. But it's about making your needs met. So you are actually giving from a full cup rather than an empty cup. So say, of course, your needs with water, food, sleep, thinking, movement, breathing, making sure your needs are met there. It could even be your need for a cold shower, your need for some time alone. That will then nourish you. So then you are giving from a full cup. And it depends on what our intention is again. Are we giving through programming, saying I have to give? Because if I don't, I'm a sinner. I'm a bad person. I'm selfish if I give to myself. What sort of programming is there? Or I'm actually giving from my heart. Like I just genuinely really feel so full with life. Like I'm just excited to give you guys something or give you something, What is it coming from the heart or is it just coming from the ego? And I think that's a good question to ponder on. A lot of conventional religion is designed deliberately to program us to feel guilty for looking after ourselves.
Yeah.
Because they're taught that you give others before you give to yourself. I think that's even in the Bible. And has that been deliberately written to then make us all energy depleted and give us, this thought that is the guilt, they kind of programming guilt into us.
Well, they are. Fear as well.
Fear, yes, of
Mm.
course. And you must give to God before you give to anyone else and all this sort of thing. And then
whereas if you change your perspective, this always pisses off religious people, and I'm sorry, but this is true. We are a compressed fractal of God. As creator beings, God's a creator. We're a creator. So aren't we God ourselves? Like, aren't we a compressed version of God? We are like a drop of God. You know what I mean? Like, we're a part of that.
Yeah, and I believe in the beginning of the Bible it says that we are in His image or something like that, and
So
they look at it like, oh, cool, God looks like a human. No, they're saying that we are in His image as He is God as being the absolute of all the universe plus the multiverses and everything.
Yeah.
We are essentially, as you say, a fractal, a part of that. We are also creator beings and very powerful beings. And powerful in the healthy powerful, not we can become powerful through our ego and start manipulating people.
That's the society currently right now.
Not a great use of power, but we are a lot more empowered than we think we are. We're manipulated by the news, by many things that we're not, and that we are victims, and that when interest rates go up, we must be stressed and spend less money. And
correct.
We're taught to be disempowered, and you kind of almost being pushed into not living this life that we're trying to teach people, getting out in nature and eating good food. Oh no, you must spend more time at work and earning more money so then you can put that into your mortgage. And it's an interesting paradox, but
it is.
Yeah, you're right. We are in His image, and the fact that yes, God is the creator energy source, and we are a part of that.
We are. And then it's the same thing with Jesus Christ, right? Yes, He was showing us how to walk this path.
Yes.
So then that energy, obviously, I don't really believe much of the religious stuff, but the death of that, like, that energy still exists. It's a consciousness.
Yeah.
So then we're tapping into that consciousness, that energy that exists within us, which is our heart. Our heart.
Yes. The esoteric meaning of what happened to Jesus when He died is more the death and the rebirth of the death of the ego, and He was rebirthed into oneness with God. Right?
Correct.
Which is essentially enlightenment, when you are completely at one with.
But then we're also replicating that in our lives,
and we do have the power to go on that journey. I think we are all on the journey to enlightenment, and it takes lifetimes,
many lifetimes.
Yeah, but if as long as you set that intention that you are on the path of understanding who you truly are, I believe you'll get there. I think it's setting that intention. If you don't set it, and you're like, no, I just want to mong out and watch TV and cool, like that's cool. But eventually, you'll probably hear the pain teacher will knock on the door.
Yes,
you'll start getting some gut inflammation. You'll start hearing some backaches, and then you know what? You can either be a victim and show up at someone's office and get the pain treated, or you can truly understand why you're experiencing that pain.
Yeah, and that is so true, and that's the thing as well. Whereas I've had people say to me, "Well, isn't that a harder path to walk?" Well, isn't the path you're walking harder too?
Exactly.
Like, you're drinking the alcohol, you're watching the porn, you're being in fear all the time, watching the news. I find that's a harder path to walk. Yes, this path's harder. You're going to have lessons, and you're going to have stuff come up. You're going to have moments where the universe is going to test you in with the meat suit of a person that's going to come to you, and then it's going to be like, well, how are you going to react? Actually, how are you even going to react? You're going to have all these moments and all these synchronicities start to happen. But then also you walk this path, your whole being changes, your light, but then the light around you extends into the universe. So then things start to happen that you can't really explain, but it's like you feel though it's like that was meant to happen. The whole world just lights up. People come into your life. Like, here's a prime example, meeting you, right? You came into my life at a time where I was wanting to up my physical capabilities in the gym. And then being a CHEK practitioner just happens to just walk into the gym and you just happen to have this podcast today. Like even meeting you is a representation of the right people come at the right time.
Yeah.
So that sort of makes sense.
Totally. When you're resonating at a certain level, right?
Yeah, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Like as you're energetically resonating with, universal truths, holistic practices. Being holistic means being whole. And I think really deep down, we're all actually on the path to becoming holistic. Because if we just delve into one side, a lot of people are just in the science, a lot of people are just in mythic religion.
Yeah.
Being whole is actually seeing the truth in all of it. It's not about negating any of that. It's like, cool, where is the truth in science? Where is the truth in religion? Where are we also being manipulated? Where's the truth there? Understanding the truth in many aspects.
But then there's one more question. Where's the truth within me?
Yes.
So how am I living my life? What am I doing, saying, thinking? What's my truth?
Totally. And what's your truth versus what is the truth too? Like we can say, oh, it's I'm always broke, right? Like as an example.
Yeah.
Cool. That's your truth. Is it the truth, or are you actually abundant, but you're just not grateful? You're not noticing it. Like, do you at least eat food? Yes. Okay, cool. Like, do you drive a car? Yes. Do you still, get to go to the gym? Yes, cool. Are you actually abundant? Yes, I am. Yeah. Cool. It's the truth versus the and that's what our job is to actually show people the truth versus their truth. I think to some degree, it's a hard line. There's the soul's truth, which I think what you're trying to tap into.
I am, yeah.
Versus the ego truth
of
what the stories and the victim and the saboteur and the prostitute, because we all have these little what we call like archetypes that can chime in, and Caroline Mace goes through them, and the kind of go on this wheel where we can be the victim, poor me, and then suddenly you're the saboteur. Oh, okay, I've got this amazing opportunity, but like I might get it wrong. Let's just drink tonight and then say I'm hungover. Okay, cool. So you've sabotaged it, and then you're back to prostituting yourself for money, getting money somewhere you don't really believe in. Maybe you're working McDonald's and deeply you think, I actually don't believe in it, but they're paying me the bills.
Right.
And then your inner child is the last one, and you're gonna have a little inner child tantrum when you get home. It's like, I wish I could have this, but I can't. I'm gonna have a little tantrum, and that's the ego self. And then your soul is transcending all of that and saying, you're creating all of this. You have a choice. You can choose to keep going that way, or you can actually choose to go the way that you want to go.
And it sounds like you had that moment when we're going to circle back to the start, when you had that moment of quitting that pursuit of being that one thing of the physio. Physio? It was a physio. Physio, yeah. And then it's like, what else can I do and be?
Totally. Yeah. Even back then, it was hard to get past my programming, because I was programmed that I must pursue a career.
Same here.
I remember now when I left school, I actually decided I want to have a gap year, and my parents said no. They actually said no, especially if you're living with us. No, you can't. And I felt okay. So as being 17, I did what I was told, and I went through the list of everything I could do. Essentially, I did really well at school, but it just wasn't good enough to be a doctor. So if not, I was going to be a doctor or a dentist. It was just off. I got an OP2, but you need an OP1 for that. And physio was the next thing. This is funny. I had no clue really, and I thought physio was an OP3 or above. I thought, okay, cool. That means I'm getting use of my OP2, because everything else was like OP6. And I was like, I could have just tried less at school. Maybe I couldn't deal with that. I was like, I need to do something worth of my good grade. So I did, that's why I decided physio, really. I didn't know what else to do. And I did also think, I was actually watching cricket a lot back then, and I thought, man, how cool to be like a physio for Australian cricket. And it would be cool, but that was probably the only other reason as to why I chose that. I was a bit interested in sport, and I thought how cool to be to maybe be involved with sport.
It's like a society programming from the school system to be one thing, to do one thing. And then when I had a mentor say to me, look, Nathan, you can be multiple things. It's like, well, you can write that book. you can have that coaching business. You can
Yeah.
do all these things. I'm like, oh shit, I can actually do like multiple things instead of just being this one. Well, for me, it was teacher.
Yes.
When I had that perspective flip that I could do so many other things,
Mm.
I don't know. It's something inside just went. I was made a child too. Of look at what my soul. Like, look at what you can do and be away from that. You must do this one thing all your life.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's the gift of being a holistic health practitioner, because every client you're doing something different with. And I've had people where I've had, especially on the Gold Coast, I had a couple of very complex clients, and you have to go very deep into their psyche to the depth that I can within my own scope, but understanding where they're creating their choices. And it comes from a lot of trauma in the past and things like that. But yeah, one minute I'm exercising a client, next minute I'm talking into their diet, nutrition, next minute I'm going into their mental, emotional state, and it's very interesting and very enjoyable.
It is.
And then someone doing an assessment of their posture, and I really have that blank canvas, and I'm like, oh, cool, I've got this person. Like, I'm very excited to work with them and see that journey unfold. And you know, Paul CHEK is a prime example where he's really
Garbage bin.
wait for the Garbo to leave.
Go over the Garbo, eh?
Oh.
What we'll do, we'll hit one. Sorry about that. Paul CHEK.
Yeah. Paul is again another highlight for how you can do so many amazing things within one life. It's a big commitment, like, to try and master everything, and it does take dedication, I think, into one. Sometimes you have to really delve into one thing and then go into something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, he understood exercise and the whole human body to a very high end degree, and then nutrition, and then he works now primarily with people's soul and spirit, and that's where he puts most of his time. So
that's where I put most of mine too.
yeah. It's he has a hierarchy called the totem pole, and working with any health condition, and it's just how the body has a hierarchy. The number one is the psyche, which in Greek is the soul, and then number two is breathing. Anything that impedes on breathing will impede on your posture and your biomechanics and your health.
Yep.
If you're not breathing enough oxygen, we breathe 26,000 times a day. You're not going to have as much energy and vitality.
And that's that deep breathing. So I know a lot of people out there breathe through their mouth. It's turning back in and going through your nose, and that deep breathing to really relax, right?
Totally, yeah.
Like, if people were right now listening and watching this, I know we're live, you could easily just and hold it. You instantly feel like the whole weight of the world can just expel out that breath.
Yeah, totally.
And a lot of people don't take that moment to just be still and breathe.
Totally, man. Yeah. And then there's a number of others, but it's an awesome way of looking at the body and still understanding what's most important to deal with.
100%.
But yeah.
If there's, to wrap all this up, Scott, been going for an hour and a bit now, which is great. I knew this was going to go for a while today.
Yeah.
If there's one way to wrap this up, so if someone out there that, it doesn't matter what age they are, they're watching this and they're like, oh, okay, Scott, you've given me something to ponder, something to think about, and now they're starting to think about their journey and their life and where they're at. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to someone watching this that might be where you were, could be anywhere, in a dark patch and even in a good patch, and they want something better still, what would be your advice to that person that's about to take that step on that journey?
Okay.
Interesting question, isn't it?
Number one would be find some stillness.
Oh, I like that.
Because to listen to the deep part of yourself, you need to listen. We can't just keep thinking. Like, you need to take some stillness, be with ourselves. Sometimes it's about unplugging. Unplug your TV, unplug the radio, unplug the music, unplug even the audiobooks and the podcast, everything. Just give yourself that time to yourself.
Yeah.
First and foremost, be in nature. Let the universe talk to you a little bit. And then number two would be the stuff about improving your energy. I think you have to improve your energy to get clear with what the universe is saying to you as well. Because otherwise we're gonna get, it's kind of like getting the signal from the universe and it's gonna get convoluted. It's gonna break up. We're not gonna fully understand it because we're, in a brain fog. We're focusing on our pain. We're not focusing on what we want because we're just focusing on our problems. So get that stillness, focus on your energy, and you'll be amazed at what will happen from there.
Scott, that was an awesome chat today. We're going to have to do a part 2. I think a lot of people resonate with that, what you had to say today and what you shared. We went layered, we went pretty deep. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Nathan.
Anyone wants to reach out to Scott, actually, before you go, where can people find you, Scott? There'll be some people that will probably want to give you a follow, want to reach out. Where can people find you? Where's the best place?
Yeah, so Instagram, look me up at Horizons of Health. So it's all one word, Horizons of Health.
Yep.
Jets Baringa is where I'm based at.
Yep. So, anyone locally on the sunny coast, Jets Baringa.
Yeah. Or drop in if you want to drop in and take a day. I'm generally there.
Yeah.
Or there's my other Instagram, just Scott Mcgee, my personal page. But
yeah,
bro.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
Well, Scott, that was awesome. Stay tuned for the next guest. It will be guest 2 of my program, which we'll give a bit of a plug now before you go. 7-week program. Scott's doing week 2, exercise nutrition, talking about most of the things we spoke about today, I reckon. So yes. Scott's going to present. He's got an hour and a half presentation that he's going to do. So opening day is June 16th. Sign up. Scott's there. I'm there. There's 2 more to come. This has been the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and I'll see you guys again real soon. Scott, that was awesome.
Thank you.
See you guys. Catch you later.